The radio crackled at Monza, and McLaren just detonated a bomb that's still exploding across the F1 paddock. Oscar Piastri's voice stayed ice cold when they told him to give up the win, but every word he's spoken since carries the same burning message. He did nothing wrong, and he's furious about paying for someone else's screw-up. This isn't just about one frustrated driver. Mark Webber has fired warning shots about what he calls creeping favoritism, and when a manager who survived Red Bull's brutal politics starts raising red flags, you better pay attention. Damon Hill threw gasoline on the fire with his comments, and the fan reaction tells you everything. This controversy has legs, and it's running straight toward a championship meltdown. Here's what actually went down in those crucial moments. Lando Norris sat pretty in second place behind Max Verstappen when McLaren rolled the dice on their pit strategy. The plan looked bulletproof on paper. Stop Piastri first to block Charles Leclerc, then bring Norris in without any risk of being undercut. Will Joseph's voice came through crystal clear on the radio, promising Norris there would be no undercut. When Norris questioned the strategy, Joseph doubled down. The die was cast. Piastri nailed his stop with a lightning-fast 1.9-second service. Then disaster struck. Norris pulled in next and watched 4 precious seconds tick away as his front left wheel fought against a stubborn nut. He rejoined the track staring at his teammate's rear wing instead of leading the race. In pure racing terms, that's just tough luck. In McLaren's world of promises and politics, they'd just broken their word to their #1 title contender. The explosion came next. Tom Stallard's voice cut through the radio static, telling Piastri to hand back the position he'd earned through flawless execution. Piastri's response sliced through the so-so. Stella keeps pushing the same defense, and at least he's consistent. The decision to pit Piastri first came from cold calculation about race control risks and Ferrari's lurking threat. Both drivers knew the sequencing wouldn't change track position. Restoring Norris to second wasn't charity, it was contractual obligation. He's promised to review the principles again, suggesting McLaren's rulebook remains a work in progress, just 8 races from the championship finale. The championship math adds dangerous spice to this toxic mixture. Piastri left Monza watching his lead shrink to just 31 points with 8 races remaining. The margin stays healthy on paper, but the psychological damage cuts deeper. When you lose 3 points after delivering a masterclass Sunday drive, it compresses your mental margins to nothing. That's where Weber's voice becomes a weapon. He survived the worst version of this nightmare at Red Bull, watching small moments accumulate into narratives of institutional bias. When he claims the points gap doesn't reflect Piastri's true dominance, he's building a technical case for respect, not waving the Australian flag. Norris tried to defuse the bomb before it exploded completely. He dismissed suggestions about his mental weakness, praised drivers like Verstappen for their killer instinct, and insisted on winning his own way. That raw honesty explains why the McLaren garage hasn't descended into civil war yet. Piastri stays measured under pressure, while Norris wears his emotions openly. Both possess the raw speed to destroy each other on any given Sunday. When 2 talents overlap that perfectly, the team survives or dies based on their ability to communicate boundaries before the lights go green. The fan debate spirals into cartoon territory because everyone needs villains for their story. Webber becomes the grieving consigliere, Norris transforms Ishaz into the protected golden boy. Piastri morphs into the wrong champion-elect. McLaren gets painted as either principled or manipulative depending on your tribal allegiance. The truth cuts deeper and feels more fragile than any simple narrative. A team fighting for championships needs rules that both drivers perceive as completely fair. The moment one side detects favoritism, performance crumbles even when the data suggests perfect balance. You don't need villains to recognize the danger lurking in Sunday's decision. Jacques Villeneuve nailed the context perfectly. Webber functions as Piastri's secret weapon precisely because he survived the politics of tight title fights alongside superstar teammates. Villeneuve also emphasized that McLaren isn't Red Bull circa 2010. No institutional bias gets carved into these factory walls. That distinction matters enormously because it means the outcome remains in McLaren's control. Keep the playing field level and the drivers maintain professional temperatures. Fumble the messaging or the consistency and every slow stop becomes evidence of conspiracy. The Australian chapter of this story now carries symbolic weight that extends far beyond racing. Piastri has already matched Webber's 9 career wins and surpassed Daniel Ricciardo's 8. He's chasing legends like Alan Jones and Jack Brabham, while pursuing his first crown as the first non-European world champion since Jacques Villeneuve in 1997. That historical significance will hover over every late-season decision. When you're writing history in real time, every team order carries the weight of destiny. McLaren cannot ignore that crushing pressure. They must transform it into crystal clarity rather than confusing noise. So what represents the right principle when promises collide with mechanical reality? If you guarantee a driver protection from undercuts and a service error flop, IP's the running order. Do you restore it as contractual obligation or let pure racing write the story? No answer wins universal approval, but you can establish the rule beforehand, document it clearly, explain it to both drivers, and apply it regardless of which name appears on the timing screen. If McLaren followed that process at Monza, they can defend their controversial call. If the case got made too vaguely or too late, they'll wear the fallout all the way to Abu Dhabi. The closing act writes itself with predictable precision. Piastri will say the diplomatically correct words while banking every available point. Norris will claim he's moved past the controversy while continuing to fight. The team will conduct a review that sounds appropriately procedural. Then Qatar arrives with fresh chaos, and the entire ecosystem faces another stress test. That's why Sunday matters more than 3 championship points. It becomes a stress test of the social contract binding the garage together. If both drivers still believe that contract remains fair, McLaren reaches the finale with 2 loaded weapons. If doubt creeps into either cockpit, the title becomes harder than necessary. Strip away all the noise and one essential tension emerges. Racing purity rewards execution and accepts luck in all its forms. Championship management prioritizes promises and minimizes exposure to risk. The best operations reconcile these competing philosophies in language their drivers trust completely. McLaren claims that's exactly what happened at Monza. Piastri's careful tone suggests he needs more convincing. Webber's protective instincts suggest he's maintaining watch. Hill's audience suggests fans aren't buying the corporate version yet. 8 rounds will decide which story ages better in history's judgment. If Sunday taught us anything, it's this crucial lesson. The fastest way to cool controversy isn't burying it with diplomatic language, it's publishing your principles, committing to them blithely, and proving they apply equally in every direction. Execute that approach, and McLaren's philosophy looks like strength rather than spin. Fail, and Monza's echoes will haunt them straight through to Abu Dhabi's checkered flag. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments.